Our reading this week comes from Luke chapter 16, verses 1 to 13. Then Jesus said to the disciples, "There was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought against him that this man was squandering his property. So he summoned him and said to him, 'What is this that I hear about you? Give me an accounting of your management, because you cannot be my manager any longer.' Then the manager said to himself, 'What will I do now that my master is taking the position away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I've decided what to do so that when I am dismissed as manager, people may welcome me into their homes.' So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he asked the first, 'How much do you owe my master?' He answered, 100 jugs of olive oil. He said to him, 'Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 50. Then he asked another, 'How much do you owe?' He replied, 100 containers of wheat. He said to him, 'Take your bill and make it 80. And his master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than are children of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourself by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes. Whoever is faithful in very little, also in much. Whoever is dishonest in very little is dishonest also in much. If then you have been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust you to the true riches? And if you have not been faithful with what belongs to another, who will give you what is your own? No slave can serve two masters, for a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth." On Wednesday of this week, I sat in the park with my laptop and 2 books of commentary on Luke's gospel. I didn't catch all the conversation, but 2 women behind me were talking about Jesus. And what I overheard was one woman talking about the abundance of God's grace and God's love. She talked about how she recently realized and really allowed this free grace and love to settle inside of her. It took a long time for her to really grasp how deep God's love is and to experience the freedom that comes with that love. But now that she had experienced it, I could tell she just couldn't stop talking about Jesus. She talked about how God's love, though, has been twisted and distorted by some people in our world. She lamented that so many people in our country and in our world don't hear about the transforming love and the grace of God that she had experienced. And this woman passionately wondered why more people haven't experienced the reality of God's true nature of lavish love. And in front of me, as I sat in the park, was the big bulletin board filled with posters and flyers for everything under the sun happening in Livingston. Flyers for fundraisers overlapping with posters for upcoming concerts. Flyers for support groups next to posters for art shows and flag football and puppies for sale. A flyer for a couple wanting to adopt a baby, right next to a flyer inviting people to adopt a tree. Ads for a whole variety of businesses surrounding the poster for Elevate Montessori's upcoming fundraising dinner. All of these events, opportunities, services, and businesses in this community where we live. And there I sat, between this conversation about Jesus's abundant love and all these snapshots of our community. And it made me wonder how our gospel reading for this week might fit in with what I was experiencing. What is the connection between God's love and grace, our community, and this parable about a scoundrel who's commended for his wisdom? The answer is, I don't know, which is the same answer that even the best of scholars and pastors have given over the centuries when asked about the meaning of this parable. Some of Jesus's parables are complicated. This one is about as convoluted as a parable can get. There's no clear, simple moral lesson. Or at least there's no moral lesson that doesn't seem to contradict with what Jesus has taught elsewhere. And so without a clear answer, this parable invites us to wrestle, to enter into a struggle or even a full-on brawl to try to find some message or purpose in this parable. While we seek answers, we have to remain in the uncomfortableness of not knowing, all while watching and looking and finding how God might emerge. The answer to the question of what God is doing in our world and in our community might be even more unclear than this passage. We live in a complicated and full and convoluted world. There's so many things happening all around us, good things and horrific things. People working for the common good and people willing to sacrifice morals and even human beings in order to earn power and wealth. So many events in our world make us grieve and lament so hard, and then another event adds more grief and lament than we thought was possible. And so we ask, is God present at all? And if so, what on earth is God doing? While we seek answers, we have to remain in the uncomfortableness of not knowing, all while watching and looking and finding how God might emerge. I don't know exactly what this parable means, and I don't know exactly what God is doing in our community. But there are some glimpses of clarity about both. And these glimpses are not what I expected. When I went to the Perk on Park, I expected to get a chai latte and a pastry to fill my belly. I expected to sit at a table where I designated in my brain was a table where only sermon reflection and writing could happen. At that table, there would be no other work or social media scrolling to distract me from the task at hand of writing my sermon. That is what I expected. But instead, I overheard parts of a conversation about God's overflowing love and grace. And I saw a huge bulletin board crammed full with so many of the people and organizations and cares and concerns and problems of our community. Not what I expected. Which lines up so perfectly well with how it seems God works. God works in the unexpected places and unexpected ways. God works through unexpected people. And we get glimpses of God working if we actively watch and look to find God. One clear glimpse of a message in the gospel reading is the last sentence. You cannot serve God and wealth. And the implication of this is that the most important thing to serve is God. We are invited to serve God at all costs, literally and figuratively. Jesus beckons us to let go of fear or to step forward and do it scared. We're invited to let go of the security of wealth and instead hold on to the security of God's love. The security of wealth will end. Nothing in this world lasts forever. But God's love does last forever. With the security of God's love, we are then called to take a risk. Like the manager in this passage, we're called to step away from what feels secure and safe and give up all other commitments that prevent us from fully serving God. In our complicated and messy world, serving God often means we have to be shrewd. We have to be wise or street smart. We have to be prudent and crafty and creative as children of light. If God does the unexpected, then we also must do the unexpected. Now, coming back to all those posters and flyers, this snapshot of our community, I thought about how our church might be already or might in the future be shrewd and do the unexpected. How might we jump in to serve God, giving up our own security to do so? And I thought about our place-based ministry that's starting tomorrow. I think about it as we are called to being wise and creative. This is one way that we are serving God, by serving our neighbors. There is the radical generosity of the Hetzel Foundation sharing their financial resources with us in a grant. And then the church in turn is showing generosity, sharing our space and resources with the community. There will be an unburdening as parents or other caregivers experience connection with other parents and realize that they aren't alone. An unburdening and liberation, just like the debtors in this parable being released from their debts. So our role is to invite people into something bigger and good. This is us being shrewd, wise, and prudent. And then we leave the rest to God. Something surprising happens when God does the transforming. On Saturday, I joined with others from around our synod and beyond to officially install Ben Quanback as the new bishop of the Montana Synod. In his remarks, Bishop Ben said this: "We gather as God's people. All of us are equal at the foot of the cross. Those of us who have been called and claimed by God are equal. We all share this tremendous gift of grace. And we share this tremendous responsibility to be God's people now in the world. It is indeed a tremendous responsibility that we have to be God's people now in our world and in our community. And so, with so much yet to be revealed about who God is and about what God is doing in our community, we're invited to take a risk, to serve God, so that all people might experience God's unexpected and transforming and liberating love. Let it be so. Amen.